Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raiders Report. And before we get into these Raiders trade candidates, today's show is sponsored by Koonce. If you want some hype-boosting shoes, then head on over to Koonce.com/chat. 15% off. Link's going to be available for you guys in the comments and in the description of today's show. So coming up here, what I wanted to do is post-NFL draft, right? When you look at the draft and even some of the UDFA signings, you got to look at what the head coach, general manager is looking at as an overall roster, because at the end of the day, you can only keep 90 guys on the team right now, and then you will sooner rather than later have to get it down to 53 men, but that's all the way in August. However, with the Raiders bringing in their new players, guess what? Some guys that were a part of the old regime with Gruden and Mayock could potentially be on the block to get dealt. So what you're going to see up here is me ranking them from 5 and working my way down to 1. The other reason why I have continued to do this show is because it's no secret. McDaniels and Ziegler look for their guys. This is according to Jeremy Fowler on the Raiders this offseason. I have talked to a few people around the league who expect Coach Josh McDaniels and General Manager Dave Ziegler to continue aggressively tweaking the roster. McDaniels is big on culture fits and will want his own guys. Fowler put that report out shortly before the Darren Waller trade. And if Darren Waller can get traded, then anything can happen. And if the Raiders make a big-time deal, we will be going live here on the Raiders Report. So this is your opportunity to subscribe, turn on your noties, because I don't want you to be that Raider fan that misses the breaking news if the Raiders end up trading anybody on this list. Let's go to number 5 here for my Raiders trade candidates. It's Malcolm Koonce at edge. And one of the biggest things that you need to look at in terms of likeliness is anybody can be traded, right? However, the more interest in certain players, to me, means that there's going to be more of an interest for him to potentially get dealt. Where Koonce is an option as a cut. I have a better idea that he would probably get cut instead of traded, but he is definitely a player to at least keep in mind. Selected in round 3 of the 2021 NFL Draft last season. Played in 68 snaps, 6% on defense, and then played in 260 snaps on special teams, which, somewhere around 57%. His 2023 cap hit, $1.36 million, which is ranked 29th on this current Raiders team. If you trade him right now, you save $866,000, but you're only going to eat $497K. Is it a lot of money? No, not really. Are you saving it? But he did not play a lot last season. The Raiders have already started to bring in their own guys. They drafted Tyree Wilson in round 1. And when you look at the amount of players that they have brought in, at least on visits at the edge rusher position, hell, you can make a legitimate argument he could be really, really buried here. So for all those reasons, that's why I have Koonce on this list. But if I'm being real, I would love for him to get more reps with the silver and black. So if I'm going to do this show, I at least got to throw out the idea of what he's going to be potentially worth in a trade. And I'll do this for all 5 of the players that you're going to see on today's show. Koonce's trade value to me, the way that I would look at it if I'm McDaniels and Ziegler, if you can get a 7th rounder for him in 2024, it's probably what they would end up taking. Let's go to the next guy here on my list, and it's Andre James, the Raiders starting center. I like Andre. I had the opportunity to meet him last summer. Really, really cool dude, and he's a glue guy in the locker room from what I understand. He played 964 snaps at center last season, led the team. Cap hit for this upcoming season is $6.98 million, which is the 9th highest on the Raiders. If you trade him before June 1st, you save 5.1. If you trade him after June 1st, you save 6.5. If you can get a better deal by trading him before then, honestly, I would just do it. However, if he does end up getting dealt, and him and the number 1 player on this list, I do believe it would probably happen after June 1st. We're going to continue to show you his trade value and then even more trade candidates. But before I do, I got to show some love to today's sponsor, Koonce. Remember, it's promo code chat for 15% off, and huge shout out to them for sponsoring the Raiders Report. Fellas, are you tired of feeling insecure about your height? Koonce makes shoes that can add up to 2.8 inches to your height discreetly. Women get heels, makeup, and push-up bras. Why can't men get a confidence boost too? We're all the same height laying down anyway, if you know what I mean. Koonce shoes are not only height boosting, but also stylish and comfortable. They're not grandpa's Velcro shoes, but fashionable shoes that you can receive compliments even without the height increase. The height insoles are integrated into the shoes, making it the ultimate height hack. For a limited time, Koonce is offering our viewers an exclusive discount of 15% off on top of their 30% site-wide discount. Use code chat at Koonce.com/chat to get your 45% off. Don't wait any longer. Upgrade your shoe game and confidence now at Konzuri.com/chat. When I want to get high, I put on a pair of Koonce's. The link is, again, in the comments and in the description of the show. And I think a lot of times I'm a visual learner. I can tell you how much I like these shoes, how much they're height boosting. But the easiest way to literally show you, so on my right foot, which is the foot I've been standing on this entire time, is my normal shoe. And I actually have a Koonce shoe on my left foot. So you ready? I'm not going to lie. It's a pretty big difference. I know some guys out there have spent a lot of money trying to get an extra 2.8 inches, if you know what I'm talking about. Koonce is going to help you do it. All the links that I just mentioned down in the comments, down in the description. Shout out to Koonce, promo code chat. Koonce, again, thank you for sponsoring the Raiders Report. Let's now go to Andre James and the 2022 PFF grades that we have laid out. In the 964 snaps, an overall grade of 62.8, a pass blocking grade of 64.5, and a run blocking grade of 59.3. He was an undrafted free agent at UCLA in 2019, and John Gruden really liked him and gave him a really quick contract extension. I was pretty surprised how early he got one in his career. But as it stands right now, this is the Raiders' offensive line. The only way Andre James gets traded, because center, believe it or not, it's an important position in the NFL. The only way the Raiders would move on from him is if, in my personal opinion, they are that confident in Dylan Parham being able to play center. When the Raiders drafted Parham out of Memphis last year, they scouted him at the Senior Bowl where he played center. And when you look at a lot of the draft picks that the Raiders have made over the last 2 seasons, a lot of it is from the Senior Bowl. So if you have the confidence that Parham, let's say, can play center, maybe you're confident that, I like this McClendon kid, he might be able to play left guard. It depends where certain players could be able to rotate on that offensive line. That's the only way you're going to move on from Andre. Do you get to save money? Yes. And because you can save that money, almost $6 million, if you could use that to invest into a Josh Jacobs, making him happier, or use that money and invest that onto the defensive side of the football, I do believe that the Raiders would be willing to take a little bit less. Plus, I don't think there's a lot of teams out there really saying, I want Andre James. So for that reason, I say that the Raiders would take a 6th-rounder in 2024. We still got 3 more names to get into here on the Raiders Report presented by Koonce. My question to all of you out there, and it's the first question I've asked so far, so please take a second, go down to the comments and let me know which Raiders player is the most likely to be traded after the 2023 NFL Draft. I'm going to be looking to see what you see. If you don't comment, you eat corn the long way. Let's go to number 3 here. It's Amik Robertson at corner. I like Amik, and this one really pains me because when the Raiders drafted Amik out of Louisiana Tech, obviously I was like, he's a dog, and yes, that is their mascot. But on top of all that, Amik is an undersized player who gives 110% every time he's out there. Round 4 pick of the 2020 draft, and if you want to hear some mind-boggling things, Amik Robertson is the only player left from that Raiders 2020 class, and he was a 4th-round pick, I believe 137 overall. But at the end of the day, Robertson isn't a McDaniels and Ziegler guy. And the Raiders have added quite a bit of players to their secondary. No big-name guys, but they've added enough players to that secondary that you could find yourself with Amik getting buried a little bit. In 2023, his cap hit's going to be $1.13 million, so 36th highest on the team. And if you trade him, you do save $1 million. $1.1 million, if I was the Raiders in the way that I would look at that money, $1.1 million is vet minimum. If you believe you can go out and get a veteran that fits your system better and you can pay him that vet min, is that more valuable to you than Amik Robertson, who's got only 1 year left on his deal and he's not your guy? As it stands right now, this is the Raiders cornerback room, and you're going to see a lot of movement. If the Raiders decide to go with 5 defensive backs as their starters, because I do believe Patrick Graham wants to run a 4-2-5, Duke Shelley, David Long Jr. to me are going to be outside corners. I want Nate Hobbs to go back inside. However, if Tyler Hall can really be that dude, and I've been talking to a lot of people close to the Raiders organization, and they're like, Tyler Hall might be the starting nickel corner right now. And if that's the case, you kick Nate Hobbs out to the outside. For Amik, he played better out at the outside corner position, But the Raiders, then, that would mean they have already 3, 4, I'm counting 5 corners as outside corners under 6 foot. I don't know, man. I know size matters. We're talking about Koonce. Maybe Amik needs to put on a pair of these shoes. So to me, if you make the deal, I would say the Raiders would aim to get a 2024 7th-round pick. And some of you are like, damn, these trades are so low. That's what these trades are after the draft. When teams want to at least save money and get at least something, these type of guys, Amik, Malcolm, I'm not really going to put that on Andre or more of yard sale. Do they deserve to be on the yard? No. But somebody else wants them, and the Raiders just want to get something for them, so you're not going to get a lot. Let's go to the next name here, and this one's going to be eye-popping, but I'm going to go based off of my gut, and I'm going to go based off of, what I've been hearing. Tre'von Moehrig. I like Moehrig a lot. He was the top safety coming out of college out of TCU. Couldn't believe that he fell to the Raiders where he did in round 2. But again, not a McDaniels, not a Ziegler guy. I will be a broken record this offseason. Hell, I've already been a broken record this offseason around that's what the Raiders want to do. He was a 2nd-round pick in the 2021 draft. This upcoming season, he's going to make $2.2 million, and he's the 20th highest-paid player on the team. If you trade him before June 1st, you save $602K, you eat $1.6 mil. So honestly, it probably just makes more sense to trade him after, where then you save the $1.4 million. And kind of like what I said about Amik, if you believe that you can find a veteran that is a better fit with your defense, then I could see the Raiders potentially going that route. The 2 names to keep in mind that the Raiders could potentially sign to replace Tre'von Moehrig, I'm telling y'all right now, the 2 biggest names that y'all need to look out for are John Johnson and Duron Harmon. Duron Harmon, not quite the free safety that Moehrig is, but you know what? Harmon was a hell of a player in this defense last season. John Johnson is more of a center fielder. They like what they have at Marcus Epps is a strong safety, and Moehrig has not quite been all he's been, brought up to be. I expected a lot more. I can also say he deserves a little bit more time considering the fact that he's already now going on his 2nd different defensive scheme. I'd like to see him in year 2 of a defensive scheme. I personally would give him another year. Now, before I show you some other numbers around Moehrig, remember, you can always interact with me on social media. In fact, I encourage people to do so. You can DM me. You can follow all the latest Raiders news on Twitter. Get to know Jeremy, Jugs, and I more maybe in my personal life. If you want to see what my dog Chuck's doing, it's on Instagram. If anybody's got a birthday coming up and you want to shout out, that's what Cameo's for. And then locals, I've been going live every Monday and Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern time over there. Let's go to the number 1 player here as a Raiders trade candidate. It's Hunter Renfrow, and this really should not be all that too much of a surprise. The last time that I did this video 2 months ago, the number 1 player was Darren Waller, number 2 was Hunter Renfrow. So now we're just going to bump up Renfrow to number 1. There were multiple reports out there that teams are going to be keeping a close eye on Renfrow, and in that same exact report, it said that teams would also keep a close eye on Darren Waller. 2 weeks later, Waller gets dealt. In 2023, Renfrow's going to make $13.1 million. That's 5th most on the team. This upcoming season, Hunter Renfrow will make more money than Max Crosby. Pre-June 6th, you save $5.8 million, you eat $7.3. If you're going to trade him, you might as well trade him after June 1st, save $11.3 million. And then, sure, you're still going to eat a little bit of money. But when you look at a lot of the things that happened last season, I love Renfrow. And when the Raiders hired Danny Amendola to be this new offensive coach, wide receiver slot coach, I saw that. I'm like, well, maybe the Raiders won't move on from Renfrow, who's coming off arguably his worst year he's had as a pro with 36 grabs, 333 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I do think that Derek Carr deserves some blame. I do think that Josh McDaniels deserves blame. Renfrow also deserves quite a bit of blame. He suffered a few injuries, which you can't put on him. But at the end of the day, he was not a very good fit and really looked lost at times out there on the offensive side of the football. And then you look at some of the moves that the Raiders have made in free agency. You went out, you got Jakobi Meyers. He can play slot. The Raiders traded away Darren Waller, sure. So then I was like, okay, well, maybe Jakobi was more of a Darren Waller replacement, not so much a Hunter Renfrow replacement. Well, then guess what? They drafted Trey Tucker in round 3, pick 100. The Raiders also went out and signed DeAndre Carter. Both of those players are gadget slot guys and offer you probably more versatility in special teams. And then from a deep threat standpoint, you added Philip Dorsett, who's a Patriot guy. I mean, there's a lot of Patriot guys, and I know Tyler Johnson is maybe a name that not a lot of people are looking at. I'm telling you all right now, the reason why the Raiders went out and signed Tyler Johnson is because that was one of Brady's guys that he liked. And if Brady said, that's somebody who I like, then I bet you that weighs very heavily in their favor as well. So to me, I would say the Raiders would look to get a 4th-round pick in 2024 for Renfrow. But I'm telling you all right now, I don't know if they're going to get a 4th. You got a 3rd for Waller, and that was before the draft, okay? I still like to believe that teams look at Renfrow as being a 60, 65, 70 catch guy, but he is coming off a bad year with several injuries, and he was not a good fit. If you can get a 4th-rounder for him and you can save 11.3, honestly, if you're the Raiders at this point, it wouldn't surprise me if they did it at all. So here are my Raiders trade candidates one more time. I got Hunter Renfrow in at number 1. Tre'von Moehrig at 2, Amik Robertson at 3, Andre James at 4, Malcolm Koonce at 5. For those that do not know, we're going to be going live on Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific. I don't want you to miss the live show. Hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications, and I'll see you tomorrow.